Hello and welcome back to Loresworn Chronicles Crusader Kings II, where we are playing as the Kingdom of Curonia and the legendary King Akko the Just. Those of you that just finished watching the previous episode, you'll notice we've skipped ahead a little bit. I did lose about 5 minutes more footage to a system crash. I think what might be happening is this hard drive that I run my OS off of, and I also run a couple games off of it, CK2 being one of them, obviously, because what is TJ going to prioritize short load times on, if not Crusader Kings? So I probably just need to replace that. But we're still in the process of trying to take Bryansk, which is one of the holy sites for... Oh, let's look at that. The Dievturiba religion. I wrote a little mod here, a little immersion mod, as I often do. Dievturiba is the Latvian name for their folk religion, their modern reconstructed folk religion, so I thought that was maybe a little bit more accurate than calling it Romuva. Probably either one would work, but yeah, so I also went ahead and I changed the localization so that Letigalian culture is now called Curonian culture, because if the Curonians had been so dominant in this time period, it's more than likely that the national identity that would have developed here would have been more skewed towards, you know, their side of the fence than the Letigalians, who would eventually become the Latvians. So it's a lot of the same people, but slightly different conception of their cultural identity. I also wanted to talk just a little bit about what RP-wise could be motivating this eastward expansion. And I talked a little bit about this in the lore video from last week, but if we think about trade, which isn't super well modeled in CK2 unless you're playing a Merchant Republic, we've captured the islands of Saaremaa. We have the Daugava estuary, which is where the river meets the sea. That's an estuary if you haven't brushed up on your geography recently. And what the Rus Vikings did, and what in this timeline the Curonians are probably going to do, is they built hill forts all along these river systems to kind of protect their trade as it moved from the Baltic Sea down to the Black Sea and then back again. Because you had all kinds of nomadic people that would be interested in maybe capturing your ships and taking all of your trade goods as plunder. We have all these Slavic tribes who don't necessarily see us as friends that might look to raid our ships coming through the river systems. So, really, if you think about a guy like Akko and a society like the Curonians in this timeline, it would make sense we would want to sort of lock down and fortify as much of this river route from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea as possible, and that's ultimately what we're going to look to do. I mentioned we probably want to go for the territory of the de jure Windish and Russian empires, but we'll probably also push a little bit down into the Pontic steppe just to, RP-wise secure those trade routes, which will also be helpful with the trade game in EU4 when we get there. But we're about to go to war with the Burta clan of the Alans. So they're listed in the Byzantine culture group, but they're a nomadic pagan people that let's see, they're adjacent to the Magyars. The Magyars are kind of the power on the Western steppe in this timeline. This is the first time we're really going to be fighting nomadic people, so that'll be kind of interesting. So if I liberate Bryansk, let's say vassalizes non-nomadic lords and takes all their titles. So this guy is non-nomadic. He's Russian and he's Catholic, so we don't want him as a vassal. We want to just straight up take the province. So yeah, we're going to do Conquest of Bryansk. And raise our troops. Special holding. Oh yeah, some people mentioned I could have used my Warrior Lodge ability to build those forts instead of spending gold on them, but We'll rally right here. Okay, I just had to roll back a save because I realized at some point my game rules were not set correctly, and an event popped up that I would prefer to talk about it in closer to its actual historical occurrence, rather than having it happen this early. Even though that would be a little bit interesting twist, I went ahead and corrected it so it's going to happen closer to when it actually should happen historically. So yeah, I didn't want to repeat my whole spiel on these guys and on Riverine trade, but we're just going to redeclare war. Conquest of Bryansk. If it's for the story, it is fair game. That's what I say. Alright. Don't need to call the glory. Any of these righteous imprisonments, anything we should be worried about? This guy wants to fabricate a claim on my kingdom. I'm going to tell him to stop doing that. And, other than that, you guys can do what you want. I'm going to rally on this side of the Dnieper. Good. Your scheming was misguided. It's good of you to realize that. Kali was slain in personal combat. I don't remember who this is. Is she my concubine? If so, I am sorry for forgetting your name and your face and probably your birthday. Akko, as we have established, is not a family man. Okay. So these steppe people are getting... They're getting to be a nuisance. They definitely have mobility on their side. Acquaintance... Are these are they calling my... Yeah, they must have been calling my concubines my acquaintances. Thieves Guild's been established in Yersica. They've dealt with thieves before. Alright. Your Neslu was killed. That's the first time we've lost a commander in battle. So that was Naula's husband. So now we have an unmarried heir again. We probably want to fix that. So, let's see. I want to find characters, search all. I'm going to load my marriage filter, change this to men. See if we can find her a genius husband. I mean, they're not really going to have more kids. This is my grandson, so that's not possible. There's this Croatian dude. I approve of that. Matrimony to Naula. Nope. So I have to invite him to court first so I can make him. Alright, we'll keep that guy for ransom. Take this back pretty much immediately. Let's see, where is he going? He's going to Lubeck. Alright, now I'm going to make you marry my daughter. Catch them before they can get away. Oh no, Ruta's gonna get badly injured. She's now one-eyed. Concerned about her absence at the training grounds, I visited Ruta. The enemy claimed her right eye, but I didn't expect it to get to her. Found her in chambers, her face turned. Okay, yeah, we'll be good friends. I treat my kids well when they lose a appendage for the war effort. Conversion of Bohemia. Okay, that's a pretty big deal. So, the tribes of Bohemia have been converted to the Fraticelli faith, so they're actually heretics. A group of priests sent by the Basileus of the Byzantine Empire. Wait, is the Byzantine Empire Fraticelli? Apparently, the Emperor of the Byzantines is a Fraticelli and has now converted a large swath of Bohemia to his faith. during which they've converted the entire population of Bohemia alongside High Chief Svatopluk and many of his vassals. With this act, the people of Bohemia once and for all forsaken their old pagan gods. So, excuse me. I don't have a mute switch for when I sneeze. That brings the Christians a little bit closer to our doorstep. Interesting. Okay. Let's see, what's the garrison? Yeah, we'll just siege it. They're probably going to take Roslavel back. Oh, man. My hunting dog died. He deserves a proper funeral. We're going to spend as much money on dog funerals as we are legally allowed. Ruta and I are in the garden. Okay, Ruta gets a kitty. See, my kids that lose appendages in the war effort get kitties. That's how it works. The ones that don't like war are forced to kill themselves. The ones that do like war get kitties. Noble warrior at the gate. He says he's a veteran of many battles and desires to become a champion of your house. Praises your wisdom and honor and pledges to always defend you and your household if you'll accept him. Yeah. We'll accept him. We also have the Great Seljuk. So in the steppes of Central Asia, a great warrior has emerged as the leader of the Kinnik tribe of the Oghuz Turks, demonstrating his brilliance by winning a war against the mighty Bunyat Kuda. Other tribes have taken to notice, and warriors of all stripes are flocking to his banners in great numbers. Seljuk Khan has promised them a fortune in plunder in his future conquests. So yeah, Seljuk, this is about the right time for him to appear, unlike that other event that made me reload my save, and he is gonna start to shake things up here in Western Asia. Alright. Won the Battle of Roslavel. Go occupy this temple real quick. Marshall has discovered a man of great military talent called Stegut. This guy. Alright, excellent. And this war should be over pretty quick here. Recently I've noticed the pitiful state of my daughter Viba. Just been informed that her aches and fatigue are a case of the flu. Well, she survived worse. But we should probably get her some help. Alright, this war is over with. We're going to create a new vassal for this area. And then we're going to have to hand it out. Realm. Need men of my religion and my culture with good stewardship, who are not already a ruler, not of my dynasty, not the heir to anything. This guy looks like he'd be great. So we're going to give him Bryansk. Alright, so we've secured another holy site and also worked towards our RP goal of locking down and making safe for trade the Russian river systems, or the East European river systems, since the Russians might not actually come to power in this timeline. My strong grandson is obviously going to be taught to be a warrior. His personal combat skills already at 20, just because he has my blood in his veins and he's strong. He could already beat up a lot of adults at 6 years old. Let's see. So, what does that put our moral authority at? We are 3 away. So what I'm wondering... Title revocation allowed. Would they vote for this? They would. So let's pass a law that allows me to revoke titles. Okay. So this is sort of a change in our government. The fact that I can deprive people of their land is not something that was always the case. So this is the temple we need. I'm going to revoke his title. Just the chiefdom of Riga, though. He will hate me, but he's my best friend, so hopefully he'll understand. And then this guy, I need to revoke his title as well. Okay, there we go. You create a new vassal here. I am going to give this to someone new. And we're going to give it to Stigut. Riga. So I suppose RP-wise, what we could maybe say happened there is... this is an important sacred grove, perhaps, and we're kind of cracking down on having idols that don't or worship of other idols that are not ours. There possibly, we'll come up with something. I don't have a great RP explanation for that right off the top of my head, but we can now reform the religion. And I did install a mod that gives us 4 doctrines instead of 2 because I do what I want, and I want to have exactly the flavor for this religion that I had in mind. I don't want to make weird compromises about it. So we're going to have kind of an overpowered religion, and that's okay. So this is a... There were kind of 2 ways I could have seen this happening, and this is a... this is sort of an organic reformation. This is not a reformation that is based on our interacting with the Christian world, because for the most part we really haven't interacted with the Christian world. So this is more like this is our religion coming into its own without influences from Western Europe. Whereas if we had more influences for Western Europe, I might have reformed it to be more like the monotheistic religions in some ways, but I'm thinking of this as being a totally like native religious revival. So what's going to change here, we're not going to have written scriptures just yet. That's going to come along a little bit later. But let's just go through and pick our doctrines, and I'll explain each of them, and then at the end we'll explain what this event represents in our history. So I'm going to go with unyielding. We might never spread the worship of our gods to all the corners of the world, because from a pagan perspective that doesn't actually make a lot of sense. But we are committed to make our ancestral lands impregnable to missionaries and infidels. So stronger when defending our home territory is extremely appropriate. Resistant to proselytizing is extremely appropriate. Our first doctrine that we're going to take is based on the fact that the Curonians were known as great fortune tellers. We read earlier in episode 0 that people would come all around to hear their predictions from their diviners and their mystics. So diviners read the signs before war to try to improve troop morale. Only through the proper use of divination can we discern the will of the gods and lead our armies to victory. So we're going to take haruspicy. We're obviously going to take the Baltic specific one. Resistant to proselytizing. I don't think it makes us double resistant to proselytizing, but it does let us keep eldership. We must stand strong to survive the assaults of new religions. Only the best among us will survive to preserve the memory of the gods. We are also, because of the fact that we are known as great pirates, and we are sort of working our way to taking control of the Russian river system, we're going to take Seabound. Can navigate through major rivers, ship maintenance is reduced, looters prefer coastal counties. The gods have given us knowledge of the tides and of shipcraft so that we could use it to spread their word to all corners of this world. And the last one we're going to take is animism, because European paganism was highly animistic before Christianity came along. Units from counties following the true faith receive a land morale bonus. Characters perform a rite of passage upon reaching adulthood. Spirits and magic are all around us. This is very much in line with what these people would have believed. Hiding inside every tree, under every river, flying above our heads, and beneath the very earth we walk on. For leadership, these are all kind of foreign ideas, honestly. You could make some arguments for... I was discussing when the Dev Diary came out about pagan reformations, temporal autocephalous would kind of make sense for the Germanic religion if you could combine those two. Like, every king is kind of their own Fylkir, they're their own autocephalous religious head. Monasticism would make sense to some degree. But in general, the one that I think would make the most sense for an organic, reformed European pagan faith, particularly in the Germanic world, but I would also say that this applies fairly well to the Baltics and Slavics as well, is autonomous. We're not creating a church here so much as we are formalizing certain rites and practices. There will be priests, but I think of it almost more like India, which is a place where an Indo-European native religion did survive all the way up to the modern day, where they have, the Brahmin caste, but there's not really, like, a high priest of the Hindu religion. And I feel like if a pagan European faith had reformed itself in isolation from the Catholic and Islamic world like we are now, most likely would have gone with autonomous. Great Holy Wars aren't allowed. That's, kind of not as fun, but I also think it makes a lot more sense RP-wise that we wouldn't really be... I mean, if we're fighting a holy war, it's most likely going to be a defensive one. So we can pick a preferred branch. We also get +2 diplomacy. So this is not something I see that's going to happen all at once. This is something that's going to kind of take shape over time. Along with the centralization of political power, there is going to be more of a centralization of cult practices, of forms of worship, of training of priests. Eventually, we're going to get to written scriptures. That's a little further down the line, though. That's going to be when we hit Legalism 3. Yeah, that's what our Reformation is going to look like, and we could even request a mass conversion too if we wanted to be lame. So, sweet, cool, great. The Romuva Reformation. The ancient Romuva religion is. Oh, I didn't change the Reformed name in the flavor mod, so I'll fix that later. The ancient Romuva religion is proving unable to withstand the onslaught of the cross and the moon, and not really the case in this timeline, but eventually this will be relevant. Rather than abandoning the old ways, King Akko of Curonia and the most powerful priests have decided to reform the Romuva faith in order to defend its followers from the infidel invaders. Reorganized to give each independent clergyman full authority over his flock, the Romuva faith has developed a series of well-defined rituals and a full list of deities to combat the proselytizing efforts of its neighbors. This event could mark the beginning of a new era of pagan revivalism all throughout Europe and spell doom for the Abrahamic usurpers. So because we are autonomous, we can pick a branch. So the syncretists believe in adapting some of the features of newer religions to their own worship of the old gods. So we get plus opinion with Christian, Muslim, Eastern, Israelite, and Zoroastrian. Same trait opinion, +5, yeah. So spiritualists. Character believes in detaching himself from worldly affairs in the pursuit for true enlightenment. Piety and church opinion. Militant. This character interpreted scripture as a call to action against all the infidels threatening the survival of his faith. Monthly prestige and personal combat skill. And tribalist. This character believes that true worship of the old gods is still best exemplified by the care that a man has for his own family. That doesn't sound like Akko to me. We're obviously going to start out as a militant, because that makes the most sense for Akko. So now we just need the holy site of Arcona. So, we get +5 morale of armies, a bunch of other cool stuff. I don't think it changes much. So the other thing I want to do, and this is sort of a preview of how I'm going to allow you guys to contribute to the wiki in some future episodes. I want to show you how we're going to pick some important historical figures to talk about who might not be people that interact with our character directly. So, let's ask ourselves the question, who maybe would make sense to have started this Reformation? Akko is a legendary king. We're not really going to have records on him necessarily, but I'm going to look at people of our culture group and our religion, or not my culture group, is my culture group. And we're going to sort by learning skill. So we have, for example, this guy, Gerdenis. He is a Lithuanian. He lives, let's see, where actually does he live? He lives in Podlasia, it looks like. He's just a courtier in Podlasia. And he has an extremely high learning skill. Scholarly theologian, tribalist, patient, lustful, craven, cruel, gluttonous, stressed. He has the gout. That's certainly a possibility. I was going to look and see if there was anybody a little bit more charismatic. Okay, so this guy has a 19 and 15. He's 44. Arbitrary, content, and honest. Really, we should be looking for zealous. Except nobody that's zealous has a has a high learning stat from the looks of it. So we're not going to find a perfect candidate here. But how about a mastermind theologian? Okay, this is probably our best bet, is this guy right here. So Svenderog could very well have been one of the early people to have started this process of religious transformation. He's a mastermind theologian, a tribalist, proud, charitable, arbitrary, content, and honest. He lives in Danzig, from the looks of things. He actually has a claim on the temple here, which is also very interesting to see. So this guy is going to be someone that's going to become an important person in the Chronicle. And, oh, he's also a follower of Dievas, which makes sense. And we're going to sort of find people who are going to serve as quote-unquote historical sources using this this method. And I'm going to actually give you a guide so that you can go into the save files that are going to be publicly available and do it yourself. You'll have to claim a character because I can only have each person writing from the perspective of each chronicler. But yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at doing. So Svenderog is going to be a probably famous writer. He's probably going to have some scriptures attributed to him. Some of the earliest scriptures, perhaps, before they even got written down, he was preaching. So, looks like there was a shakeup because it kicked all the unreformed people out of my government. But we're going to go ahead and start spreading what is now the official proper practice of the religion to the countryside here. Let's see, proselytize. Start in our own domain here. I really like the new pagan priest counselor model, by the way. That's pretty awesome. And the other thing we can do now is we can adopt feudalism. So adopting feudalism will convert all my tribal holdings into castles. When this occurs, if the county is big enough, city and temple holdings will also be created if they do not already exist. Your vassals are likely to follow suit if they are of your religion and culture. So again, this is a process. We've talked before about how we kind of have a proto-feudal state now, and we're moving closer and closer to this idea of having these local strongmen who are put up in their fortresses. They're kind of responsible for administrating an area. Things are becoming less egalitarian. They're becoming more authoritarian, as is sort of a characteristic of feudalism. There's probably going to be some tax farming that's going to start to creep into our society, although as we live, as I said in the lore video last week, in a very kind of wild area similar to Scandinavia, had this same sort of thing going on. At least until we can sort of tame the land, we're still going to be relying a lot on our warrior culture, and we're going to be relying a lot on raid warfare to acquire wealth, because it's not like we have giant fields where we can grow crops and become wealthy on that. That can come later, but it's going to be quite a while later. Probably by the time we get to the late feudal administration law is when that sort of a system will be in place. So we're in a transitional phase from a very tribalistic, very kin-based sort of warrior society towards something that is more administrative and centralized. So, we have now adopted feudalism. I'm going to go ahead and take a screenshot of that. We have a bunch of holdings that have been constructed. We are now at domain size 22, which is too many. So we're going to go ahead and create some vassals here in our domain counties. I always prefer to create vassals if I have the option. Let's see, create new vassal. Create new vassals. So we've got construction of temples. We've got cities building up, you know, around fortified positions, or perhaps around some of these castles. Okay, cool. It automatically renamed our capital to Groban. I don't have to do that on my own. Good job, Paradox. I did research on that, and you had already done the research for me. So I was like, what is our capital city going to be called when we go feudal? Okay, that makes sense. All right. So we now have a feudal realm. We have a reformed religion. And we're on our way to stepping out of the legendary, semi-legendary age and into where we're actually going to have more of a written historical record, which will take the form of the wiki. We're going to set our ambition to see the realm prosper. We have an open slot for a court physician. Let's see. Yeah, I'll go with this guy. All right. And I should probably go ahead and just Baltic hold this up. Sweet. So we got some castle fortifications going. I do like that they don't represent these as stone castles yet, because we wouldn't really be using stone castles yet at this point in our history. Shallow moat surrounding the castle, that's probably pretty legit. Low walls, wooden walls most likely in our case. We have a keep. So yeah, that makes sense to me. Do we have any? Let's see, that's not worth it for the claims. Don't need to do that, don't need to do that. We already own all of that. Alright, so yeah, Akko's gotten a lot done in his life from the looks of things. Our next goal is going to be continuing to expand the realm. We've come to quite a watershed moment in our history, but we want to continue to dominate these Russian river systems. We'd like to get a port on the Black Sea. We'd like to secure routes up to the north up here and kind of conquer along the Baltic coast. And once we get to a certain realm size, I will tease that there might be some character switching going on, because, I mean, the Franks are just an absolute mess right now. There's heresy everywhere. And we might play a little bit on the Catholic side to make sure that the Curonians have a legitimate threat from monotheist Europe, as they did historically. Especially now that we got this big Saxon blob here, that's going to be quite the challenge for any enterprising crusader. We might get to see both sides of that Holy Fury box art image, the pagan side and the Catholic side. That's why it's called Chronicles Crusader Kings, and it's not called Chronicles Curonia, because we are when we're doing a Chronicles run, be fully prepared for us to switch characters from time to time just to make things a little more interesting. We will come back to these guys, though. I just want to make sure they have a rival that's actually worth worrying about, which the AI might not do for us. Anyway, check out loresworn.com. That's our website. There's a new article up there right now about kind of the transition to the second age of the Loresworn Order and what that's going to look like in terms of myself and in terms of the other Loresworn members. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit the notification thing so you can know when we post a new episode. All that engagement, all those comments help us get seen by more people. I swear I won't say that ever again, like, the day that I don't need to. The day, like, all I really want is for this channel to grow to a point where, you know, it's kind of paying my bills, and at that point you will never have to hear me say smash the like button ever again. I swear that on Akko's honor. And we'll see you guys next time.